The hiss of air brakes in the endless darkness of the woods. That was Paul's world at his midnight gas station. Tonight's security cam caught a customer no one expected. A wild leopard strolling through a fluorescent-lit gas station heading straight for the pet treats. Paul's heart hammered as the wild creature moved past him with terrifying grace. Its mission simple: a bag of cheap, fish-flavored cat treats. It took its prize and vanished as silently as it had come. A few nights later, the leopard was back. This time it didn't leave. It sprawled out, having a picnic on the store floor. When officers from Fish and Wildlife arrived, the cornered animal was all feral intensity. It lunged, snarled, and then, in a flash, snatched another bag of treats and darted into the darkness. Why would a wild leopard repeatedly risk capture for a bag of pet store treats? This isn't just a story about an animal breaking into a store. It's about a fierce, unwavering determination that risked everything for a single, profound reason. You'll never guess the real reason this wild leopard became a late-night thief. The hiss of the air brakes on a semi-truck was the only sound that broke the symphony of crickets chirping in the dense woods surrounding the gas station. It was a lonely outpost of civilization, a small island of fluorescent light in a vast, dark sea of pine and oak trees. Paul, a man whose face was a road map of late nights and early mornings, watched the truck pull away, its red taillights shrinking into the inky blackness. He sighed, the familiar scent of gasoline and pine needles filling his lungs. It was nearly midnight, and the world felt like it was holding its breath. He stepped outside the convenience store, the cool night air a welcome relief from the stale, air-conditioned interior. The task was simple: replace the trash bin. But in the silence of the night, even the mundane felt significant. As he turned back, the glass door slid open with a soft chime, a sound he'd heard 1,000 times before. But this time, it was different. A shape slipped through the doorway, low, silent, and golden under the harsh fluorescent light. Paul froze, his hand hovering over the door handle. It was a leopard. "Whoa! Easy there," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. He'd seen them before, of course. Shadows at the edge of the woods, a flash of tawny fur in his headlights as he drove home. But never this close, never inside. The leopard paid him no mind, its movements fluid and deliberate. It wasn't frantic or scared. It was focused, its eyes fixed on something beyond the aisles of chips and candy. Paul's heart hammered against his ribs. He clapped his hands, a sharp, loud sound that echoed in the quiet store. The leopard spun around, its shoulders hunched, its eyes blazing with a feral intensity. A low hiss escaped its lips, a warning that sent a shiver down Paul's spine. He backed off, his instincts screaming at him not to push. This was not a creature to be trifled with. The animal turned away, its focus returning to its mission. It padded silently past the aisles, its paws making no sound on the linoleum floor. It moved with a grace that was both beautiful and terrifying, a wild thing in a world of plastic and processed foods. It stopped in the pet section, a small corner of the store dedicated to the needs of the local dogs and cats. With a single, deliberate motion, it bit into a bag of cat treats, its sharp teeth tearing through the plastic with ease. It lifted the bag from the shelf, its prize secured, and trotted out of the store as calmly as it had come, disappearing into the darkness from which it had emerged. Paul stood there for a long moment, his mind struggling to process what he had just witnessed. He had been a breath away from a wild predator, and it had ignored him, its only goal to acquire a bag of cheap, fish-flavored treats. He let out a shaky breath, the adrenaline slowly beginning to recede. He had a story to tell, that was for sure. But as he locked the door for the night, he couldn't shake the image of the leopard's eyes, the fierce determination that burned within them. It was a look he would not soon forget. A few nights later, Paul's co-worker Dave was on duty. Dave was a younger man, still new to the graveyard shift, and the strange things that happened in the dead of night. He was engrossed in a paperback novel when the door chime rang, jolting him from his reverie. He looked up, expecting to see a weary traveler or a local teenager in search of a late-night snack. Instead, he saw the leopard. It was the same one, he was sure of it. The same tawny fur, the same intense gaze. But this time, it didn't leave. It sprawled between two display racks, its body a study in casual indifference. It tore open a bulk-sized bag of cat treats, the shiny foil wrappers scattering across the tiles like fallen leaves. It began to eat, its small, sharp teeth crunching on the hard, dry pellets. Paul, Dave whispered into his phone, his voice trembling slightly. Your customer's back. He could hear the sleep in Paul's voice as he answered. What are you talking about, Dave? The leopard. It's here, in the store, and it's having a picnic. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. You're kidding me. I wish I was, Dave said, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. What do I do? Don't do anything, Paul said, his voice now sharp and alert. Just stay behind the counter. I'm on my way. And Dave, call Fish and Wildlife. Dave did as he was told, his fingers fumbling with the buttons on his phone. He watched the leopard, a wild, untamed creature, lounging in the middle of his store as if it owned the place. It was a surreal sight, a scene from a dream or a nightmare. He wasn't sure which. When the officers arrived, their flashlights cut through the darkness, their beams dancing across the shelves of the store. The leopard was crouched low in the aisle, its fur bristling, a guttural snarl rising from its chest. It was no longer the calm, focused creature Paul had seen. It was cornered, and it was afraid. Easy, one of the officers said, his voice calm and steady. He took a cautious step forward, his hand outstretched. We're not going to hurt you. The leopard's ears flattened against its head, its body tensed like a coiled spring. Then, with a sudden, feral burst of energy, it lunged toward them, its jaws open in a wild hiss. The officers froze, startled by the force of its movement. The cat stopped just short of them, its eyes blazing, its growl reverberating through the narrow space. It was a display of pure, untamed aggression, a reminder that this was a wild animal, not a house cat. For a moment no one moved. The air was thick with tension, the only sound the low growl of the leopard and the frantic beating of Dave's heart. Then, in a flash, the leopard spun around, its muscles coiling. Before anyone could react, it snatched another torn bag of cat treats from the floor and darted through the open door, vanishing into the darkness outside. She just took it and ran, one of the officers murmured, his voice filled with a sense of wonder. Like she knew exactly what she came for. The next morning, they found her. She was in a humane trap they had set outside the store, a last-ditch effort to catch the elusive thief. She was alive but exhausted, her beautiful coat matted and dirty. She looked at them with a mixture of defiance and despair, a wild creature caught in a world it did not understand. You'll be safe now, one of the officers said quietly, his voice filled with a gentle compassion. We'll take care of you. Later that day, Paul and Dave reviewed the security footage. They watched the events of the past few nights unfold on the grainy screen, the leopard's strange, audacious behavior captured in black and white. Then, they rewound the tape, searching for a clue, a reason for the animal's bizarre actions, and they found it. Days earlier, a delivery truck had pulled up to the store, its driver a man in a hurry. As he unloaded boxes of supplies, one had ripped open, its contents spilling across the pavement. It was a box of cat treats, the same brand the leopard had stolen. They watched as a shadow appeared at the edge of the lot, a small, cautious creature with a tawny coat and a twitching nose. It was the leopard, its nose to the ground, following the scent of the spilled treats all the way to their door. She must have tracked it for miles, Dave said, his voice filled with a sense of awe. "Or she's got mouths to feed," Paul replied softly, a sudden understanding dawning in his eyes. At the Wildlife Center, their suspicions were confirmed. The leopard was a nursing mother, her body thin and worn from the demands of her young. She had been desperate, willing to risk everything to provide for her babies. The staff at the center cared for her, their gentle hands and kind voices a stark contrast to the harsh, unforgiving world she had come from. They gave her food and water, a warm place to rest, and the time she needed to heal. A week later, Paul and Dave went to visit her. She was in a large enclosure, the bars of the cage a sad reminder of her captivity. But she was no longer the exhausted, desperate creature they had found in the trap. Her coat was clean and glossy, her eyes bright and alert. She was still wild, but she was no longer afraid. Paul placed a new bag of treats beside the fence, a small offering of peace. "You've got little ones waiting, huh?" he said quietly, his voice filled with a gentle understanding. The leopard looked at him, her gaze steady and unwavering. It was a look he had seen before, in the middle of his store, under the harsh fluorescent lights. It was a look of fierce, unwavering determination. When the gate of the enclosure opened, she stepped out, her movements fluid and graceful. She paused for a moment, her head held high, and turned to look at them one last time. It was a silent acknowledgement, a moment of connection
When the gate of the
between two
enclosure
worlds.
opened,
Then she was
stepped
gone,
out,
a flash
her
of tawny
movements
fur
fluid
disappearing
and
into the
graceful.
trees. Dave let out a long, slow breath. "Guess she just wanted to feed her family." Paul nodded, his eyes fixed on the spot where she had vanished. The woods were silent now, the only sound the gentle rustling of the leaves in the wind. But he knew that somewhere, deep in the heart of the forest, a mother was returning to her young, her belly full, her mission accomplished. "Yeah," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Can't blame her for that." He thought about the leopard, her courage, her desperation, her unwavering love for her young. He thought about the strange, beautiful, and terrifying world that existed just beyond the glow of his gas station lights. And he knew that he would never look at the woods or the creatures that lived within them in the same way again. He had seen a glimpse of something wild and untamed, something fierce and beautiful, and it,